Hello, wonderful leaders. Welcome to our very last lesson in our leadership boot camp. This one is all about change. I saved it for last because it's a transition, it's a change. You have changed a lot in the course of this course, and hopefully there are wonderful changes for you to come. In order to navigate change, I'd like to introduce you first to the work of Chip and Dan Heath. They are brothers who worked at Stanford and studied change in a business setting. What they looked at was why change is so difficult. Why is it that by February, most New Year's resolutions are blown? And what is it about navigating those kind of different changes that we want to make in our lives? Why is it so hard? Also, why is it that within an organization, why is it that having people change their habits, change what they do within a team that you manage, why is that so hard? And they have a 3-part idea. And that is based a lot on this idea about mind, body, and soul that we have worked with throughout this course. Often when we tackle change, we tackle it straight from our mind. We use our brain, we come up with a plan. Every day I'm going to do X, Y, or Z, and we try to force our way through with this mental capacity. But in our systems, we know that the default is really, really strong. We operate on habit so much of the time. And because of that, forcing ourselves to make a change can be really challenging. It can lead to decision fatigue. It can lead to a hard time for our minds to continually, day after day, reinforce this new behavior. So what the Heath brothers suggest is that we need to do more than our mind, as you know. We need to engage body and soul. And we also have to set up the environment for it to be as easy as possible. And they think of it as the mind being the rider of our body and soul, which is an elephant. And if you are a person riding on an elephant, you may want to go a certain direction, but if your elephant isn't also headed the same way, you're not going to get very far. And so that's the idea. How can you align mind, body, and soul forward towards the thing that you want to see happen? And then to make it even easier, how can you create an environment? How can you make a path forward that is as easy for you to succeed as possible? They say for change to succeed, there are 3 ingredients. We need paths shaped for clear and easy passage. We need riders who know where to go and can see the bright spot. And perhaps above all else, we need enthusiastic elephants. So let me break that down a little bit for you to see how is it that you want to navigate change. Start with the rider. That's the one that we as leaders typically are the most in tune with. We operate from our minds. We're great problem solvers. We have an amazing plan. So use it. The way that you engage your rider to help you navigate a change or to help your team navigate a change is you encourage your rider to have a very, very clear understanding of why it is that you are leaving the status quo, and have also a very, very clear understanding of where it is you want to go. I think of it as being very, very clear, like, yes, I really do want to leave home, and then having a compass pointed the right direction to take you where you need to be. And then as you journey, the goal of the rider is to continually look for the bright spots. Look for the places where your strengths, your gifts, your talents are going to nurture you and help foster the change you want to see. You look for the successes, the places where, hey, I tried an experiment and it worked. But you can't do rider alone. You have to engage the elephant. You have to motivate the elephant so that the elephant is excited. And that's where you have to think about the body and the soul. That's where you have to recruit your emotional intelligence. That's where you need to feed your own soul of purpose and values, vision, and meaning. And you also have to nurture your soul in the ways that you know And you would if you were riding an elephant. How would you motivate an elephant? You would give it lots and lots of nurturing. You would surround it with love, with allies, with friends, so that it's not leaving its herd. Instead, it's going with a whole bunch of other people headed the same direction. That is a much more motivated elephant. Similarly, if you have yourself or other people that you're trying to navigate forward towards change, if you're going as a team, it's a lot less lonely and it's a lot easier. And that's why accountability partners and a whole group moving the same direction feels so much easier than striking out on your own. And the other part is to do it in little bites, little steps. Sometimes a big change can seem completely overwhelming. If instead you break it down for your elephant into little tiny bites, all you have to do is take one step. Hey, little elephant, come on, take one more step forward and then you can get a treat. If you can motivate your elephant with little tiny bites, rather than saying, we're going on a 3,000-mile journey, it's just one step at a time, one little step at a time, and that will help motivate the elephant. Finally, how is it that you shape the path? How can you make the journey and the environment around you as conducive to continuing forward through the change as possible? And that's where I want to bring in James Clear. So James Clear wrote the book Atomic Habits. It's a fantastic book that my book club went through. That book talks about four different things that really help you make a change. How is it that you can change habits in a really effective way? The first one is you make the thing that you want to do as obvious as possible. So if you want to make a change, such as increasing the amount of exercise that you do, you take your exercise shoes and you put them right in front of you, right at the back door, so that you trip over them on the way. If you can make those cues and triggers something that's easy to access and really in your face, it's much easier to access it. You make it attractive. You make it something that you want to do as much as possible. So again, how can you make something desirable? And that's really where you recruit the elephant in as many ways as you can. And then you make it so easy. And that's, again, some of those little tiny bites. How can you make something really easy? You give it in little tiny bites. Instead of, I'm going to exercise for an hour, what if all I did was I went to the gym? All I do is walk into the gym, check in, that's all. If I do that, then I've succeeded for the day. Which seems a little bit odd, but by the time you're there and you've checked in, might as well stay for a little bit. And then you probably get your hour of exercise in. And finally, make it rewarding and satisfying. What is it that you can reward yourself with to show that you've succeeded? So when you're clearing the path, you're creating the environment, you're creating the reward structures, you're creating the systems, you're creating the ways of putting the cues right in front of you. And if you want to break bad habits, putting those cues as far away from you as possible, it helps a whole lot. Let me give you an example of making the cues hard to access. If the problem is watching too much television, hide your remote. If you put your remote somewhere where it's really inaccessible, you're a lot less likely to engage in TV watching. So that is the Heath model for navigating change. You need your rider, you need a motivated elephant, and you need to shape the path to make it as easy and effortless as possible to follow the direction that you need to go. That works very well for individuals. What if you're trying to help an organization navigate change? If that's the situation, that's when you want William Bridges. William Bridges wrote a book called Managing Transition, and it is fantastic. What he says is that the single biggest reason that organizational change fails is because no one has thought about the ending or planned to manage that impact of that ending on people. And so he paints a model where you have the whole path of a change management, starting with the endings, headed towards the new beginnings. And then in the middle, there's this whole messy neutral zone with all mixed up, down, old, new, kinds of mixed up emotions. So let me walk you through each part one by one. Let's talk about the endings first. What does it mean that you have to help navigate through the ending? Well, let's look at what the rider would have to do as you leave home. The rider really needs to know, why is it that the change is needed? And thus, your job as a leader of an organization managing change is to be incredibly transparent about why it is that the change is needed. All the data, all the information, put it all out there on the table. Make it really clear that this is the reason why, that this is why we need to leave home as a group. And also, that is not about any one person or any part of the team, that these are the reasons why. It's not about you. This is the data. That's what the writer can do. For the elephant is about body and soul, and you have to recognize that people within your organization are going to have a lot of feelings, a lot of big, real feelings about leaving and changing things, about ending something that they've worked really hard on, and nurture that. That's the place where you have to have a lot of emotional intelligence and a lot of empathy. So when you're navigating through the bridges model, think about the elephant. Think about the fact that there's a lot of emotional impact about leaving and letting go. And finally, what about the path? And here's a part about the endings that's really important from bridges, is that you help people recognize that if they're going to lose something that's really important to them, what is it that's possible of equal or greater value that they could gain if they leave home? So for example, say the things that people tend to have reluctance to leave behind are things like status, seems like belonging or a sense of team, space, an office, a room, a suite, a floor, all of those space things. And then also control. Losing control can be extremely difficult. So what is it of equal or greater value to that individual that they stand to gain by moving forward through the change? And so if you can help pave a path forward that leads towards something that is really important and deeply rooted and motivational for them, then you can help them navigate away from home. Once you start leaving, you enter the neutral zone. And this isn't a from one stage to another stage to another stage. The ending portion and the neutral zone portion all get mixed up together. The idea about the neutral zone is that you can't go straight from the old to the new. It's not as easy as going to the grocery store and something that's really easy and habitual. No, this is you're moving from one identity to a new identity. An identity change, as you know, is a soul change. That's where it feels like a punch in the gut. So being able to help people make that soulful change is going to take time. It requires time to allow for all of those mixed up feelings to flow through you. We've talked about how to let go of resentment, and that is by letting the emotions move through you. You have to expect a lot of ups and downs, that you take one step forward, you take another step back, you take 2 steps forward, you take another step back. And that this is a period of growth and experimentation. And so make it very, very, very comfortable and safe for people to experiment, to try little changes and see what happens. So that's the neutral zone. How can you navigate through that? And finally, the new beginnings. This is the place where you can start to get a taste of what the new beginning might look like. And again, let's return to the idea of a rider, elephant, and path and see how that plays out in that new beginning phase. For the rider, the new beginning is all about this new purpose, the problem that drove you from home and what it is that you're headed for. So remember, you have a compass. and using that compass throughout this entire phase of navigating the change. Keep it focused, always pointed towards how can we get to this new purpose, this new vision that we want to see. And so your job as the leader is to keep the entire group focused on, that's where we're headed. We're headed over there. We know the destination that we're headed towards, and you just solve the problems one by one all along the way. And again, the other part that the writer can do is to help focus on the bright spots, to focus on the successes, to focus on the experiments that worked, to help people use their strengths to the greatest advantage. Wonderful. How about the elephant? How can you use the elephant? Well, the elephant is all about the emotions, the body, and the soul. And so can you picture not just what the destination is going to look like in terms of outcomes and measures, but give people the sound, the look, the feel. Give them the grass is really greener over there kind of a feel. Allow them to feel it, not just in their head, but in their body and soul of what that might feel like. Give them an opportunity to not just think about, oh, this is what it might be like, but actually to try on the new identity and see what it will be like. It's allowing it not to just be in your head, but to be down in your being and in your body. So how will the new destination look, sound, feel down inside of you? Who will you be in this new beginning that you might be looking forward to? And most importantly, what part will each individual person play? One of the hardest things about navigating change is feeling like everyone's leaving without you and there's no room for you inside the new tent. So as a leader, make sure that you include each and every person in your organization and give them a critical, important role to play so that when they get to that new beginning, they'll have said, we've done it together and I was part of it. It's really hard to move forward unless you know that you have a role to play. Finally, the path. So the path is one for an organization where you can have a very clear idea of where you're going, but you're going to learn things along the way that might shift what you actually do in the end. So the path, while you want to have a very clear picture of where you're going all throughout, you want that to be flexibly changed as you get more and more new information. The path will unfold step by step as you go forward. No matter how beautiful your plan is, with laid out A to Z for how your organization is going to get from where you are to where you want to go, things are going to happen. Things are going to break. A to Z is going to have all sorts of side routes and side paths. And you might not end up at Z, you might end up somewhere else, but still with the same overall goal in mind. So be able to be flexible with your path. There's not always just one way to get there. Allow the path to unfold step by step as you move. And also, just like James Clear said, see how many ways that you can shape the path to make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. If you can do that, then you'll be shaping the path so that everybody will want to walk along the path that you've laid out. Beautiful. That, my friends, is your last lesson in Leadership Boot Camp. You are ready to go out into the world. You have been provided with the survival skills and the advanced training that you need. You know that I am here for you. If there's anything that I can do or offer or support you with, please do reach out. In the discussion, here's what I would love to hear, is what changes did you see in yourself through this course? Could you tell what your rider did, what your elephant did, and what the path was like as those changes took shape in your life? For an experiment, you might remember that one of the very first things we did was an energy inventory, an energy audit, way back in the very first lesson on managing your energy, not your time. I invite you, as your experiment, to try taking that energy inventory again. See what is different. I'm going to put a link to it inside of this lesson, so therefore you can have a pre and a post to see what, if anything, has changed for you. Beautiful. Thank you, my beautiful leaders. It's been an absolute honor to walk by your side for this little while. Shine bright.